Alright guys, my name is Metagoblin and today I'm going to be giving you a guide where we're going to essentially go through every single class in the game. I'm going to give you the best race option for every single class in the game, and this video is purely based on PvE, raiding and dungeon and solo content DPS. This is all about what races provide the most DPS for every class in the game. Okay, we've got a lot of information to go through in this video. I'm going to go through, first of all I'm going to introduce a video explaining how racials work. There's a lot of kind of mechanics and mathematics that we need to understand for each racial, and we need to categorize each racial very clearly so you understand them very well. And then I'll go through every single class in the game and basically give you the optimal DPS choice for every single class in the game. But guys, if you have any questions, obviously leave them below in the comment section. I'll answer them as soon as possible. And be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Then definitely subscribe, because I'm going to be making loads of videos like this soon. Next video I'm probably going to make one about tanks and then healers and loads of class guides and videos helping you choose what class to play in vanilla when Classic WoW releases. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. But let's jump into the video. So first of all, I'm going to run through a few things that you really need to understand about WoW racials before you can really start to get a grasp of what Classic WoW is really about, because there's a lot of mechanics in vanilla which aren't in retail at all. But anyway, let's jump in. The first thing we're going to bear in mind when it comes to choosing our race is the starting stats. Every single race has different stats, right? And because in vanilla the numbers are crunched down a lot more significantly than they ever have been in any other expansion or in retail, and all these little differences actually do make quite a significant change. The starting stats not so much, but other things you will start to notice a difference. So every single race has different starting stats. And this isn't just the primary stats, it isn't just strength, intellect and stamina. They have different range attack power, they have different dodge chances. For instance, the Night Elf has a passive increased 1% dodge chance from their spellbook racial, but also an extra 0.45%, something like that, increased dodge chance, which makes them a very obvious best tank choice. Not a lot of people actually play Night Elf tank, but anyway. So there's the starting stats. The next thing is weapon skill. Okay, weapon skill is very significant because you have a few races out there which have increased weapon skill. And if you're new to vanilla WoW, you probably have no idea. You probably just think, yeah, you probably remember that you have to increase your weapon skill passively throughout the game, but it's just going to make that process a little faster. It's less to do with that really. What you need to understand is glancing blows. Now glancing blows, it's very straightforward. Basically, if you're attacking a mob your same level, you're attacking a mob, say you're level 60, you have 300 weapon skill, there's a 40% chance for every single one of your melee hits. So this is your white damage, which is hitting every few seconds. You have a 40% chance on every hit that the damage is reduced. Okay, one it can critical hit, and two, the damage is reduced by about 30%, sorry. So you have a 30% damage reduction of 40% of your attacks, which is pretty bad. But if you increase your weapon skill further, that damage reduction buff is reduced by a further 3% for each weapon skill that you increase over 300. So if you have 301 weapon skill, that damage reduction is 27% and it's not 30%. And obviously you keep increasing that further to reduce that damage reduction, and eventually you can get rid of the damage reduction entirely. So that is a very important thing, because a lot of these races have passive weapon damage buffs which become very, very useful. The next thing, obviously, you have DPS buffs. You have your berserking, and berserking is the troll racial, generally better for casters. The orc racial, blood fury, is always better for melee DPS, and you have stuff like that. And then obviously you have gimmicks for PvP and stuff like that, which we won't really discuss that much in this video, but we will in a future PvP guide. By the way, guys, if you've liked the information I've given you already, if you found this information useful, then be sure to leave a like, and I really appreciate that. So let's jump into the meat and potatoes, and let's jump through all the different classes now. So the first class I have is Rogue, which is probably the best melee DPS class in the game. The optimal choice for Alliance is definitely Human. You have obviously the increased weapon skill with swords, right? And most of the time, as a as a rogue, you are going to be using swords. A few people use daggers, but most of the time it's swords because the best weapons are swords, and yeah, the DPS is just better. And well, to be honest, I'm not like a absolute rogue nerd, so people will probably argue that against me, but most people do generally go for swords, and a lot of good weapons are swords. So with this extra 5 weapon skill, that damage reduction to it's 5 times 3%, which is 15%, so it's a 15% damage buff on your glancing blow attacks. So that is quite significant, and obviously you have all the other great things that human racials have. But that really is the weapon skill and the mace skill that's the only significant thing. And for Horde we have Orc. Basically the reason why we go Orc, it's nothing to do with a weapon skill or anything, it's just Blood Fury. Blood Fury DPS bonus is simply better than the Troll bonus, so you're always just going to go for Orc Rogue. So Orc Rogue and Human Rogue are the best. The next class I have here is a caster. We have a Mage. Basically, as a line for every single caster, you are going to go Gnome. There's no real massive DPS boost or anything like that, or that many benefits out of any of the other races for casters. So, which is why I'd always go Gnome, because you have a slight increased intellect. I think it's like 5%. So obviously that increases your mana pool. Unfortunately, intellect doesn't increase your spell power in vanilla. A lot of people, like including me, forget that. But it does increase your crit chance marginally, so that is quite useful. And obviously when you're decked out in full gear, that crit chance is going to be magnified quite, so it might even be like 1% extra crit chance. And for the Horde option, you're going to go for Troll. Simply because it's a better DPS option from Berserking. Berserking increases your cast time, which is nice, because basically whenever you're doing raid DPS as a mage, you are just going to be casting Frostbolt or Fireball, depending on what content you're on. And yeah, so most of the time you are just going to be casting, and the reduced cast time is obviously going to be a massive advantage. Let's jump on to the next class, which is Warrior. Best choice is for alliances always going to be Human. Again, it's the weapon skill bonuses, you really can't fault them, and that's pretty much it, because we got mace and swords. There's a lot of great mace and swords in the game. For Orc we have, for Warrior it is going to be Orc for the Horde side, and that's because of the axe specialization. Again, there's like a lot of good axe options in the game, but mainly it is because of the Blood Fury racial. Again, it's just a better melee DPS option for Rogue and Warrior than Berserkin, so that's why we're going Orc. For Warlock, again, it's, Gnome is the best caster, always will be, because of that increased intellect chance, well, increased crit chance with the intellect buff. And then when it comes to Horde, actually, no racial really provides that much of a DPS boost for the Warlock. So what I would go for is, well, whatever you want. And the thing is, like with PvP, they're also they both provide very good racials. So when it comes to Warlock Horde, I would just go for whatever the hell you want. I'd say the most lore appropriate option would definitely be Warlock. But yeah, you really seriously just go for whatever you want, because there's no DPS buff. So, and the starting stats are quite similar, so it's really up to you. Last class we have is Hunter. So again, we have the same kind of issue when it comes to the alliance side for Hunters, because no races we have Dwarf and Nelf. Basically none of them really provide that much of a DPS boost. You may think the gun one does, but the issue is that you won't really be using guns. I mean, the best BIS weapons are normally crossbows or bows, so you aren't really massively going to benefit from this gun racial, apart from when you're leveling up. So what it falls down to is starting stats. So the starting stats for Nelf are just slightly better. The range attack power is better for Night Elves, and the crit chance is slightly increased as well. So Night Elf just simply is the better option. Again, that is only marginally low, so it is really up to you. But for the next option, it's definitely Troll. Troll is definitely better. With the Troll ratio, your rotation actually changes with the Berserking buff, because you're going to be doing so much damage with rapid fire and berserking buff stacked together that you literally not need to cast any abilities. You will just let your hunter do auto attacks and go pop 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 and do serious damage with your white damage. So yeah, berserking buff for the troll is definitely really quite a significant advantage. Anyway guys, I'm going to end the video there. On the screen right now you're probably going to see a very similar video to this one, so I definitely recommend you checking that video out, so it's probably going to be very useful to you. Anyway, my name is a Metagoblin. Until my next video, ciao.